When Mutahi Ngunyi crafted the hustler nation versus the dynasty narrative, he wanted to achieve a specific political objective. It was around 2 years ago. And those who can remember so well, around that time, Raila Odinga had just entered into handshake agreement with President Uhuru Kenyatta. And by the time Mutahi Ngunyi was crafting this narrative, Raila Odinga had just met with the former President Daniel Toroitich arap Moi. And he had also just met with the former President Mwai Kibaki. Mutahi Ngunyi was part of Jubilee think tank. And the handshake actually changed the politics of this country completely. And because Mutahi Ngunyi was part and parcel of Jubilee think tank, he still believed in William Samoei Ruto's presidency in 2022. And when Raila Odinga made those moves, Mutahi Ngunyi started thinking that probably the moves were meant to stop William Samoei Ruto from becoming the next president of the Republic of Kenya. So he crafted that narrative to align William Samoei Ruto to the hustler nation and project Raila Odinga as someone who was running from the hustler nation. Because according to Mutahi Ngunyi, Raila Odinga was the one who represented the hustler nation. And by shaking hands with Uhuru Kenyatta, meeting Moi and meeting Mwai Kibaki, he was abandoning his own team. Listen in briefly.
In light of the above, Raila meeting with Mzee Kibaki and Mzee Moi means nothing.
Today I will give Raila Odinga some unsolicited advice. And I know that giving advice that is not solicited is rude, but I will give it all the same. And I'll give it because Raila's advisors are incompetent in my view. On the handshake, this was the best decision Raila would have ever made. It has stabilized the country and has restored him as a statesman, locally and abroad. However, whoever advised him to engage in the dynasty project was malicious. And this is why. You see, Raila is a project of the hustler nation. From Kibera to Kondele, the poor believe that he's one of them. In fact, some of them believe that he lives in Kibera. But now he has disowned them in favor of the dynasties. And like the prodigal son, Raila has returned to his rich father. And with this action, he has revealed to the country, and especially to the poor, that he was just a fake hustler in Kibera.
Mutahi Ngunyi then went further and passionately explained to Kenyans how William Ruto represent the hustler nation.
I believe in the hustler nation, and I believe in its power, and I'm actually a member of the hustler nation. If a chicken seller like William Ruto can become president, then the hustler nation is a secret to be discovered. Ruto is not ashamed of his past. He is not ashamed of his past as a chicken seller, as a hustler, and as a KYM. In fact, he carries these labels of shame on his shoulder with pride. And because of this, he will walk into the presidency as a former chicken seller, and he will represent our aspirations as a nation of hustlers with pride. His symbols of struggle are powerful, in my view. They give us hope. They instruct us not to be ashamed of who we are. If your father had no name, like William Ruto's dad, you can beat the odds and become president. And this is why the Kenyan nation is fascinated by William Ruto.
So the hustler nation was crafted by Mutahi Ngunyi. And William Ruto, being a shrewd politician, realized that the message was actually sinking each and every single day to Kenyans. And Kenyans started swallowing the hustler narrative. And before President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga knew, the hustler narrative was actually spreading into this country like bushfire. But of late, I'm starting to think that William Samoei Ruto is losing this hustler narrative. He's losing it especially after what happened in Vihiga. So in this video, I want to try and explain to you guys how William Samoei Ruto, or why William Samoei Ruto is losing the hustler nation narrative. But before we do that, if you're watching this video for the first time, I want you to take a second or two and click the subscribe button so that next time we produce a video like this, YouTube will automatically notify you. Now back to the main issue. If there is one man who is serious with his bid for the presidency in 2022, then that man is William Samoei Ruto. Yesterday, William Ruto was in Kiseria, and this incident was witnessed.
Amujambo, asante. Amujambo watu wa Kiseria. Muko tayari? Muko tayari? Muko tayari na William? Muko tayari na William? Muko tayari na William Ruto? Watu wa William Ruto. Watu wa William Ruto. Asante sana. Jambo la pili. Jambo la pili.
So from that alone, it tells you that there's something wrong. But let me just go straight to my points. Why do I have a feeling that William Ruto is losing the hustler nation narrative? Number one, because it creates a class war. What it means is that this message which William Ruto and his team are relaying to Kenyans is creating a war between the rich and the poor. You know, the initial idea was targeted specifically on the people whose fathers, if your father was a chief, then you are a dynasty. If your father was a teacher, then you become a dynasty. If your father was a president, you become a dynasty. If your father was an education officer like Mudavadi's father, then you become a dynasty. Before they realized this was changing into a class war between the rich and the poor. And this guy here, Councillor Wanjohi, captured it so well.
Unajua kuna vitu vingine inaanza hivi tu kimchezo, lakini baadaye inageuka inakuwa national disaster. Hii maneno ya hustler versus dynasty sasa imesambaa, imeingia sasa mpaka huko vijijini, na wakati inafika huko imeweka watu ghadhabu na chuki ambayo hata haieleweki. Juzi tuliona watu wa bodaboda huko Rift Valley walichoma gari ya mzee ambaye alikuwa ametoka kupeleka mtoto wake shule. Akakuja akapata ka accident kidogo, watu wa pikipiki wakaungana haraka hapo, wakachoma gari yake, wakishout tuchome dynasty, tumalize dynasty. Sababu hao watu wa pikipiki wanaona mtu wako na kagari, wanaanza kumuita dynasty. Jana lori imechomwa tena huko Rift Valley. Mzee amechukua loan, anataka kufanya biashara ya nyama. Ameenda huko ndani kabisa, amenunua ng'ombe. Accident kidogo na watu wa pikipiki wakachoma lori na ng'ombe yote hapo ndani. Kwa dukina ngopi juzi, watu walikatakata na wakaua ng'ombe za mtu fulani hapo jirani. Sababu ati hizo ng'ombe zimeruka fence, zimeingia kwa neighbor, zimekula shamba. Anaitwa dynasty hapo sababu anakamua lita 20 anapeleka pale kwa dairy. Ng'ombe zake zikauawa in the name of hawa ma dynasty. Wanataka kuangamiza mashamba yetu na ile mimea iko kwa mashamba yetu. This thing sasa sio maneno ya ati maskini na familia za kina Kenyatta na Moi na Odinga, imekuja mpaka manyumbani. Unapata ndugu yako anaona umejiendeleza, umejiinua kimaisha kidogo, anaanza kukuita dynasty. Anaanza kukuchukia, familia zinagawanyika.
And because it's creating that class war, the middle class in this country are starting to fear. When you are rich within Kibera, for example, then you are surrounded by poor people. Then you fear that this narrative is going to create that class war between the rich and the poor. So it's no longer about who your father was. It's about whether you have or you don't. Because, of course, the truth of the matter is that if you follow the talks, it's like these guys are also talking about the haves and the have-nots. So if you have and they don't have, then it creates that problem. So basically, those who have are likely not to join that bandwagon. Or if they have to do it, then they're not going to put their money into that. They're doing it out of fear. The second reason why I think is they're losing this narrative, because the only way you can know whether they're losing the narrative is when they start going outside there to defend. Remember, before the president came out to talk about this particular issue, they were just talking about it, talking about the hustler, talking about the dynasty. But since the president talked about it, now they are no longer talking, but trying to defend what the dynasty or what the hustler nation is. For example, today they're trying to defend that the hustler nation is about that ordinary person doing an extraordinary thing in the village or in town. You know, you just come to town, you start selling a pen, then you graduate, mpaka ufike mahali. So they are now trying to explain. So that means they have actually been pushed to offer a counter narrative. So basically what's happening is the counter narrative about the tribal dominance by the Kikuyus, by the Kalenjins in this country, which the president did in Vihiga. Since that time, the hustler nation has been trying so hard to explain to Kenyans what the hustler nation is. The fact of the matter is that Kenya is a tribal country. Kenyans look at things from a tribal angle first. That's why when there is marathon outside there, you'll find Eldoret town, Iten town, Kapsabet, and those other cities very busy. Even screens outside there, people cheering on their kinsmen. Other places can cheer, but it's not to that level. That's why when you see a Kikuyu arrested or a Kalenjin arrested, their tribesmen, members of parliament, would go outside there to claim that they are being targeted. So Kenya is a tribal nation. And because only 2 tribes have led this country since independence, it's very easy to whip emotions on that. So Kenyans are now saying that if you want equity, you must come with a clean hand. William Ruto is part and parcel of the Kalenjin community. And of course, even on that, they've been trying to explain that there is no tribe called Kalenjin, that Ruto is a Nandi, that the person who ruled was Moi, and Moi was a Togen. So basically, Kenya is a tribal nation. And the other side can decide, okay, the Luos can decide, okay, that's what you want. They go to their people, they tell them that sisi pia tumeza wanaume. You go to Western, they'll say, sisi pia tumeza wanaume. So that counter narrative by President Uhuru Kenyatta actually affected them, because the president only spoke once and he has not spoken again. And you've not seen the president again. So what will happen again if he will come again and talk about it? Number 3, the third thing which is making this hustler narrative to lose meaning is because dynasty is actually part of system of the politics in this country. In William Ruto's camp alone, we have so many dynasties. Simeon Nyachae is a dynasty in this country. But the other day you saw William Ruto with a son, welcoming the son to Hustler Nation. Susan Kihika is a dynasty, the real dynasty. The father could not even write his name, but became very powerful in this country. So today, as we speak, Susan Kihika cannot stand on a podium and speak against the dynasties because she is part of it. Talk about Caleb Kositany, again another dynasty family. Talk about Kithure Kindiki, again another dynasty. So basically, dynasty is part of the system. So these guys are realizing that apart from President Uhuru Kenyatta and Mwai Kibaki and maybe Raila Odinga's family, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga family, the dynasty is spread at all levels. So you go to a county, in that county, a member of parliament is a member of a dynasty and is part of Tanga Tanga. You go to a ward level, you find the MCA is a dynasty. The father was a councillor, the grandfather was a councillor, and because of their leadership, because even in the Bible actually recommends that. In their leadership, the family is favored. So that guy can also not go outside there. He's a member of Jubilee, of Tanga Tanga, but can't go out there to preach about the hustler. So because of that, the narrative is losing meaning. The fourth reason why they're losing the narrative is because this hustler narrative has been hijacked by the corrupt or the rich to manipulate the poor. And Kenyans are reading some of these signs. I just want to give you two incidences. When the deputy president was in Bomet, there was this guy who came to the rally in a Viet vehicle and in a wheelbarrow. And then later on, this guy handed over the wheelbarrow to a hustler. You know, Kenyans on Twitter and on Facebook were very angry with this man. Even Tanga guys were very angry that this guy was actually mocking the poor. So basically, because they have hijacked this narrative, it's losing its meaning to ordinary Kenyan. You go to Omanga. Omanga was also captured carrying on a wheelbarrow two poor kids. You see, that's indignity, carrying two poor kids on a wheelbarrow. So Kenyans went and captioned Omanga with the two kids and Omanga with a family flying on a plane. So because of those, because the rich have hijacked this narrative, I think Kenyans it's now losing its meaning. And number 5 is William Ruto himself is to blame. William Ruto has been the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya for 8 years now. Apart from that, William Ruto, as the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya, had opportunity to make appointments in government. Today, Kenyans are asking William Ruto one simple question. As the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya, can you show us evidence that while you are the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya, you considered these dynasties or you considered these hustlers? The answer is that most of the people were actually dynasties. The people he appointed, the people he worked with, the people he has supported. Because, for example, they are saying that since he joined politics, William Ruto has never voted outside the dynasty. So, in my view, William Ruto and his team must devise an innovative way of selling the hustler narrative. Because let's face it, the main reason why Kenyans are angry is because of Jubilee failures. And Kenya is led by President Uhuru Kenyatta, who is a dynasty. In fact, in this country, the only dynasty president we've had is President Uhuru Kenyatta. Moi was a hustler, Kibaki was a hustler, Kenyatta Senior was a hustler. But Kenyans are very bitter with Uhuru Kenyatta. So William Ruto must exploit that bitterness to the fullest. So even if it means telling Kenyans about this hustler versus dynasty, he must tell them that if your father was a president, you don't understand the problems of this country. He must tell Kenyans like that. If he feels that Raila Odinga's father was a vice president and because of that Raila doesn't understand anything about the poor, then he must tell people. And Raila Odinga, for him also to counter this, he must come out openly and challenge William Ruto when he ever went hungry. Because for him, he was jailed for 9 good years. He must tell Kenyans that I was jailed for 9 good years. I understand what eating burger is, what going to toilet is, what freedom is. So he must also counter those. But William Ruto must be bold enough, in my considered opinion, to counter or to tell these people that the dynasty is actually, if your father was a president, then you don't need to become another president. Thank you guys, and please may you have a good day.